This is the Hustler's Corner.
Hustlers and squatters, brothers and sisters, welcome once again to another exciting episode of the Hustlers Corner. First up, let's go straight to that shop sign on the count of 1, 2, 3. Click that like button. Click, 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 click. Thank you very much, guys. Let's click the subscription button as well. Click. Do not forget to switch on the notification bell so that you get to know when we're dropping brand new videos. So if you go to the description there, you're going to see a lot of links. You're going to see a link that takes you to our other brand new podcast called Virtual Mkuku. Click on the link and subscribe. Click on the link that takes you to my own personal YouTube page, DJ Swoo, subscribe. Click on the link that takes you to Penuel, the Black Pan's YouTube channel, and go and subscribe so you become a part of the family. He is our co-host for our Monday podcast called Virtual Mkuku. Upenyuel. Follow him as well. There's also another link that'll take you straight to the MOFAYA merchandise. Those who want to buy products, go sell, or want to buy merchandise, caps, t-shirts, jumpsuits of MOFAYA, all of that stuff is available on that link. Click it. And by the way, guys, we've just opened up for brand new membership. Become a part of the member. Become a part of the family, guys. I am paying like 99 Rand, 100 Rands every month to other podcasts because I feel they give me worthwhile content, that I feel it grows me, that I feel I enjoy it. If you think or you feel the type of content that we do here grows you and you are willing to become a part of the family to help us grow, become a member. 9 Rand 99, that's our cheapest package. We've got a 39 Rand 99 and there's also other packages there, and we're also still working on other perks that we're going to bring on board so that you know what package you're taking and what you're getting out of that package. And for those who don't have money, you're still a student, you're still young, you don't have to pay anything. Just watch the content, learn, be inspired, and go out there, hustle, and become a better person. Now, the hustler that I have here today comes from my world, the music industry. Platinum selling artist, award-winning South African singer-songwriter. He's a guitarist and a pianist as well. He's got 3 studio albums. He had I Wake Up. I think his 2011 follow-up, Life on Mars, and his latest Things Unseen have made him a multi-platinum selling success in this country, Mzansi. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome Jesse Clegg to the Hustler's Corner.
Thank you, bro.
How you doing, bro?
That was an epic intro.
Good to see you. Thank you for making it.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. Great to be here.
Lovely. I think before we get into finding out about your story and who you are, I know you've got a busy weekend. By the way, guys, we're recording this on the Friday before his busy weekend, but you guys are watching it after it had just happened. But it's a Friday today. He's got a very busy weekend. What's going on this weekend?
Yeah, man. So this weekend, me and my family are hosting a very epic tribute concert for my father, Jonny Clegg. It's 3 years since his passing, and the concert is happening on the 3-year anniversary of his passing. And it's just going to be this really epic celebration of his life, his legacy, what he stood for as a man and as an activist. And we've got 35 artists coming from all over South Africa and from around the world who are collaborating to have a day of music and remembrance and to pass his message forward. You know, we've partnered up with the Clegg Foundation, which supports underprivileged students in township schools, helps them with literacy and computer sciences and stuff. So it's really about celebrating my father, his legacy, and giving back to the community and taking his message forward into, you know, the next generation. So it's a really special weekend. It's something that's very emotional for me, but a source of great pride.
May his soul rest in peace, man.
Thank you, man.
I think he played a very big role in this country, race relations, and just being a part of the artistic space. And I love the fact that he was a conscious activist. Me being a child and growing up at Tembisa, I grew up to your father's music.
Yeah.
You know? I grew up to his work, no Babu Mchunu.
Yeah.
And I hear Babu Mchunu is still alive.
He's playing on Sunday, man.
Oh, he's playing on Sunday?
He's playing on Sunday.
Oh, wow, that is so dope.
Yeah. He's coming down from KZN, man.
I loved the music. We grew up in it. I think a lot of South Africans would attest to the amount of contributions that your father has had. But I know people like yourselves who've had like amazing, legendary parents, you sort of have to grow with this thing in your life where you don't want to live under their shadow, but you're consistently being asked about your father.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where I want us to start and then get it out of the way. But how was it growing up I grew up as a child from apartheid South Africa,
Yeah.
all the way to when I was a teenager, 1994, it became what we would call now the Rainbow Nation, the new South Africa. But I come from that old South Africa, and I
Yeah.
grew up in his music, and I understand what it meant at the time as a child. It's still engraved in my subconscious mind till today. But
Yeah.
how was it with you being in there and being his child?
I mean, I think when you're young, it's hard to compare your life to anyone else because you only know your life. But I was very fortunate that I was exposed to a lot of culture, a lot of language. You know, Sipho Mqunu and his family are like family to me. We spent a lot of time in the rural areas in KZN, and I just got to witness the beautiful power of different cultures, different languages, the power of music to cross cultural lines, cross political lines, you know, all the barriers that South Africa was experiencing as a population. My dad was someone who managed to just cut through all of that, and it was really the source of that was just his deep friendships and his relationships with, you know, Sipho and Charlie Mzila and you know, a bunch of Zulu people who accepted him for who he was, and he accepted them for who they were, and it was really powerful for me to see that. So, and you know, there were a couple of people in our lives that were assassinated during that time. Dudu Ndlovu, my dad's dancer in Savuka, who was a close friend and someone who was also like family to us, was assassinated, and a number of other people. So we saw a lot of, you know, it was traumatizing, but I was very, I'm grateful that I saw what was happening in a very real sense. You know, I think that a lot of white South Africans were sheltered from it. You know, they knew that it was happening, but they didn't experience it. And I think I'm grateful that I got to experience it because it gave me a deeper connection to South Africa and what the country's been through and how we can navigate our way through it. On the music side, he was touring all the time. I would be on the bus or at the airport or in hotel rooms and backstage, and I got to just see the power of music, man, around the world. You know, France, all over Europe, America, Asia. Like, we would travel so much in my early years, and I think going into music myself, I had a very disillusioned view because I saw like how difficult it is to be a long-term musician. I mean, you know as well, man. There's the discipline that it takes, and it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. You know, you have to be consistent. You have to have a vision. You have to understand your audience. You have to understand your identity as an artist, and walk your journey with as much sort of truth and integrity as you can.
That's a punchline for Ipa, to walk your journey.
There it is.
That's their payoff line.
That's amazing.
Walk your journey, sure.
Okay, I need those.
I'll hook you up.
Okay.
Theo, let's hook up Jesse, man, with a pair. What size are you?
I'm 9, please.
Theo, Jesse's size 9. Let's hook him up with a pair too, so he rocks properly on stage.
Yeah, I'm in. So yeah, man, it was a really amazing education, and I think my father was someone who, in music, it's not the most conducive industry to family life, and my father he always made a special place for us and for his family, and we always felt loved and respected. So he was a good man.
That's incredible, man. But your father was a performer, bro.
Yeah, man.
Your father was a performer, and I'm sure when you look at his videos or when you just have those types of memories, it sort of inspires you in your own delivery on stage.
Yeah, and just funny, like when I started, I actually wanted to keep our music very separate. Like for the first sort of 10 years of my career, we didn't really do anything musically together because I knew that there was this like preconception of me becoming a musician and who my dad is and my family, and I really wanted to find my own way and find my own artistic identity. And then in 2016, when he got sick, I then realized, like, what, time is limited, and we had such a deep, close relationship, and I realized that I wanted to do something with him musically, and that for the first time we went on tour together. We did his farewell tour.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, geez, it was epic, man.
I didn't come to the shows, but I remember the PR was everywhere.
Yeah, no, it was
And
amazing. Yeah.
because I'd been following him throughout my career and since I was a child. I mean, he's a very, very big figure in the country. Anybody who's 30 years plus or 35 plus, you guys can relate, right? You would know. And your dad wasn't only a part of a group, but he was also an amazing musician in his own
Yeah,
right,
for
apart
sure.
from the actual group. But let's talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was an incredible performer, and I think he drew on so many different influences, and he was a dancer, an anthropologist, he lectured at Wits for 10 years in anthropology before he went into music, so he was an academic, and he brought all of that learning and that teaching to his stage performance, so I think that was something that really set him apart. And for me, like growing up in that and experiencing that, it really gave me a sense that music can be so much more than just, a musical experience. It can be a way to convey a message, to connect, and move people. And I guess like I've taken that in my own way. And when he did that farewell tour, it was our first time performing together. I went into studio. We wrote his final album together. I executive produced the album, and it was just wonderful. And now, one of the exciting things that I've been doing is I've been working with young artists, young South African artists, to try and reimagine his music and find new ways to reintroduce his music to a new generation. We actually just did a song with Mzaki last week where she's taking some of my dad's music and we're reimagining it with her, and it's just been wonderful, man. Like,
Saki's incredible.
She's incredible.
I'm a
man.
very big fan.
Me too. And she was just amazing, and it's just a testament to great art lives on always.
Yes.
So yeah, man, it's weird. It's like when you lose someone, you start to see their whole life in retrospect. You start getting a new perspective of who you are and who you are in relation to them, and how to keep their memory alive. And I think that me and my brother and my mom, we all feel this responsibility, which is partly why we have this, the concert. I think that there are so many great people that came out of South Africa, the greats of this country, who need to be celebrated and need to be remembered and need to be passed forward to the next generation.
Did you want to become a musician when you were young?
I did. I mean, I loved music, and there was so much music in my household. I think I was intimidated by it. Like, I thought, like, am I going to be able to be a musician? Like, is this something that I can do? And I think that what got me to really fall in love with it is when I started writing music. Like I started playing guitar, started playing piano, and when I started actually writing music and finding my own voice and finding a way to express like my thoughts and my emotions and memories and feelings, and that's what I really fell in love with. Like, for me, songwriting was the key to everything. And it still is. I still consider myself a songwriter first.
So did you go to school for it, or you just
No,
learned?
I did my matric. I went to university, but I never studied music. And my dad didn't either. We both self-taught basically. And like, I think that, in my opinion, I think that music has to come from the heart. So if you study it and you internalize and you learn the mathematics of music, I think it can take you away from just the emotion of it. Like, that's been my experience. I know there's a lot of educated musicians who are like geniuses, but for me, music is such an emotional experience. Like, I don't want to objectify it in that way. I just want to like experience it.
Yeah. And where did you grow up? Did you grow
I
up
grew up
in
in
Joburg?
Joburg, yeah. In Joburg.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought you grew up in the KZ, and I don't know why.
Everyone thinks that we grew up, that my dad and us were all in KZN. No, we've always been in Joburg.
And how was your upbringing in Joburg?
Yeah, it was good, man. I mean, as I said, I had such a diverse experience, and there was a lot of traveling. We would travel 6-7 months of the year until I was about 8 years old, so did a little bit of like, I had a nanny who kind of took care of me when my dad was on stage or touring, and it was a very chaotic upbringing, but it was very like exciting and inspiring. I got to see the world when I was 4 years old. I'd already seen half the world.
Yeah.
So it was wonderful, man. And I mean, Joburg is it's just I love Joburg. I think it's got so much history. It's a complicated place. there's so much creativity and potential here, and I think that being able to witness it through my dad's eyes, or through Sipo's eyes, or through artists that know the history of this place was just, I feel very fortunate.
And which part of Joburg is that?
Well, I grew up in Waverley, was our first house.
Oh, Waverley. Oh, okay, yeah. Okay.
And then we moved to sort of Rosebank, Dunkeld, like actually right near here.
Okay.
Just all over Joburg. I mean, we've had like different places around town, but always Joburg. My dad loved Joburg.
Yeah, no, me, I'm a proud Joburger as well. Like, I spent all of my life in Joburg, so Gauteng, Ekasi, and I love this the energy in Johannesburg, and I love the hustling spirit.
Yeah,
and just
it's
people
raw,
wanting,
man.
You know what I mean? People wanting to do it for themselves. Everybody just doing something.
Yeah, and such diversity, man. Like there's so many different musicians here, so many different artists. Like, it really is the hub of South Africa, I think, just creatively.
And what do you think of the music culture right now in Johannesburg?
I think it's really exciting, man. I think I think there was a time when I started, like 2010 or so, like artists were very like keeping to themselves, and there was like a bit of like, maybe this was just my perception, but it wasn't that easy to collaborate with artists. There was a very different perception, and like I think everyone was looking after their own. And now my experience is just like everyone's opened up. There's just a lot more, like, we have a new pride in our own art and our own music, and we want to collaborate, and there's just this sense of like working together and coming together, and this community as artists. And maybe COVID also had something to do with that. I think artists we all had to like survive that.
We had to figure out ways of how to make money.
Yeah, and it was crazy, but it also gave us like a sense of community for the first time. I think that it's amazing. I mean, this project that I just did with Mzaki, like, it was just so wonderful. I went to Flame Studios up at Constitutional Hill.
Constitutional Hill, yeah. Shout out to the Nando's guys for putting those together.
Yeah, man. And it's just like, firstly, that space has so much history. That prison, it's had like Mandela, Luthuli, and Gandhi in one prison. And it's like 300 years old. And now they've converted this like, this monument to like apartheid, basically. They've converted it into this beautiful studio where young people are learning music and learning dancing and writing music and recording, and it's just like reinventing the history of the space, and like those kinds of initiatives are just, I mean, that's just so inspiring to me, man.
I actually totally agree with what you were just saying now, that artists now are more open to collaborations, more and more, and even the market. I think the market is also now ready to receive different sounds.
Yeah.
I remember when I was making a lot of hits at the time. I was young, and the market was just, it's either I love Afropop, I love house, I love this, I love that.
Yeah.
A lot of musicians at the time also used to box themselves up. I'm a quieter artist. I am a this, and it wasn't also. I remember even R&B musicians. It would be difficult for them to want to do work. A lot of the time, they've had to either change their sound so they appeal to the mainstream market. But what I find now, and even with the kids, the younger musicians, is they are exploring like crazy.
Yeah,
they're doing all sorts of different sounds, and I think the market is now ready to receive any type of music that you put out there.
Yeah.
It'll have its own fan base somehow.
Totally.
And I'm loving a lot of the collaborations that are happening now as well.
I mean, I experienced that myself, man. Like, I started out as like a acoustic singer-songwriter, and then I went into rock, and then I went, now I'm like almost electro pop. Doing stuff with Kent, DJ Kent. Now I've got a song coming out. Me and Son L are doing some projects like Mzaki. Lots of like artists that when I started out, I would have considered that to be completely different to what I did. And now it's like, it's just amazing. Like, you just work with people in different genres, different styles, and it's like, you can celebrate that, and I think that comes from like confidence in ourselves and confidence in our music, and as a community, as a community of artists. Like, I think we've found we're realizing that what we have is really special, and I think, I mean, guys like Black Coffee and those guys who are bringing it to the stage, like it's so good for the industry, it's just amazing.
It's so good because more and more people all over the world, they want to see more of where this Mapiano sound comes from, where this Black Coffee comes from, where this Trevor Noah comes from. Like, it looks like there's just a beautiful culture where these guys come from.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to see more and more eyes being more and more interested in South African creatives, and I think it's a beautiful thing, bro.
Yeah, I agree, man. And I mean, that's something that my dad, stumbled on in the 70s. He was like, all the artists are trying to look overseas for what's the cool thing. But actually, what we have here, no one else can do it. This is like totally unique. That's happening right here, right now, in this space. And I think that's like a beautiful thing, man. And like, I'm psyched I feel like that's where we all at now.
Yeah, I don't like boxing myself and saying I'm this type of a musician. But if you were to define your sound now in 2022, how is your sound?
I think my solo stuff is like sort of electro pop. But, as I said, man, I'm doing like multiple different projects, and some of it's more house influenced, some of it's more electronic. I've moved away from like a rock thing. Like I think I was in like more of a guitar based vibe. I still play, and I love playing live instruments. I play on stage, but now I'm kind of just exploring, man. Like I'm going where my inspiration takes me, and it's just been a really wonderful experience. My new album, I've been basically doing the whole thing in LA, and I've been working with songwriters and producers and just people that inspire me over there, and there really are no boundaries. Like you can really explore whatever genre you want. As long as you have a great song. A great song is the key.
Yeah, I always say that.
Yeah.
And a great song, you can never know what genre it's going to be.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting Jerusalem to do what it did.
Yeah, jeez, man.
Do you know that they sampled some radio station, and specifically of our most famous radio, one of the most famous radio stations, South Africa, Metro FM. Apparently, they didn't play that song.
Really?
Apparently, they refused it. This is in the beginning before it became a hit. But what I'm trying to say is, we create stuff and we put it out there, and you just never know.
You never know.
And they just became a global hit, bruh.
Crazy.
And somebody else could have listened to that sound and said, yeah, maybe this is not my vibe. And became one of the biggest songs ever in the history of South Africa.
It's unbelievable. And like, that's the beauty of music, because it is such a mystery. It's like no one knows what's going to connect.
Yeah.
It's like... And I mean, I've had that where it's like I've got a song and I think it's a hit. Like I'm like, this is the one, and it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, same here. And they just don't understand.
Yeah.
And these guys understanding that this is dope, and they're just not feeling.
And then the other side is like, you have a song you don't even think it's a single, and it comes out and it's like, wow, this actually is like really dope. Like I didn't even believe in it. Like
Yeah,
so,
and then it sticks.
Yeah, so I don't even try and predict it anymore. I just write songs and I put it out, and if people like it, that's great. If they don't, on to the next one,
Technology has now changed the game in the music industry. Yeah, you're an artist that started about a decade ago or so, but you grew up in music. I did a lot of my music, and I acquired a lot of success in the music industry without the social media world.
Right.
And I wanna judge and hear from you as to the music space with this technology now that we have in 2022, as opposed to when you started out.
I mean, I think it's amazing that, back in the day, if you wanted to make an album, you needed to have money. Like, it was expensive to make an album. You had to go into a big studio and like get mics and amps and drums, and like, especially when you're doing the band thing, it's like a whole, it's expensive.
It's expensive,
and it's not good that, it kind of separated artists who could afford to make albums and artists who couldn't. So, it kind of like, it was only conducive to artists who already had money, and now technology has made it much cheaper to make music. You just need a laptop, like it's incredible. So I think it's democratized music for a lot of artists who wouldn't have access. So that's a good thing. On the other side, I think that like, I'm a songwriter and I'm someone who believes in communicating through music. For me, communicating through social media and having to like be so conscious of the branding and so conscious of like marketing myself to an audience, I think that is a challenge for songwriters. I think that makes it difficult to be, to find your artistic voice is a very personal journey, and it's something that you have to do through your music. And you can use social media as an extension of yourself, but I don't like the idea of like selling my soul on social media. There's something like a little bit like fake about that.
Yeah.
Like I try to just be real on social media, man. Like I like to just tell people what I'm up to. I'll talk about my songs, talk about my music. But I think that there's a tendency to lean too hard on the social media side. You still have to write good songs. You still have to, hone your craft and spend time and discipline. Like, I think that people want this overnight success thing, and like social media like makes us believe a certain version of how fame works or how the music industry works. And at the end of the day, man, like you can have millions of followers, but like you still got to make great songs, and you still have to learn your craft and hone your skills, and that takes time, and it takes a lot of introspection.
My uncle was one of South Africa's greatest musicians. May so rest in peace, Bob Simon Kabinde. His stage name was Mahlatini. He had a band. His band was Mahlatini and the Mahotela Queens.
Yeah.
And every time when I was a kid, and when they would come visit at home and just with his band, or they'd be going on shows with the Kumbi, and it was just so fascinating with me as a kid and just watching all of that.
Yeah.
And fast forward to a couple of decades later, I got into the music industry, and I became this person that I am now. And I always attribute my first years of being exposed or being inspired to want to get into music to him. And obviously that's what happened with you naturally with your journey. Would you advise your kids or encourage your kids to get into the music industry?
I wouldn't encourage them to do anything. I would say that they must follow their passion. I mean, that's what my dad said to me. He said, like, I'll encourage you in whatever you do, as long as you are passionate, as long as you're motivated, and what you do it with love, you do it with commitment, compassion, and you can, if this is your dream, I will fight for you to dream your dream, And I think that was very important to me, because I didn't feel pressurized to go into music. It wasn't like, this is the family business and now you have to start. And, it wasn't anything like that. It was just like, if this is something that you love and you believe in, this is what you must do, And I always got that sense from my family that, like, I think that I could have been anything and my dad would have supported me, and I think that that's important. For my kids, I mean, I'd love them to know my music. I'd love them, I've just had a daughter. She's 15 months old.
Hey, congrats, bro.
Thank you, man.
Congrats, man.
Thank you, brother.
I got a daughter too, man.
Oh, man.
And I know how adorable they are at that age.
Jeez, it's crazy. It's like, yeah, it's insane. But and I play her my dad's music, her grandfather. Like she's jamming to like Jaluka and Savuka like crazy, man. So I think it's important that your kids know who you are and what your life's work is, and your family lineage, and like her she's gonna know her grandfather even though he's not alive. Like she's gonna know who he was. She's gonna experience his music and my music, and I think that's wonderful. And if it inspires her to go into music, that'll be awesome.
No, I get you.
As long as she wants it,
Yeah. It has to be driven by her. And
yeah.
Any other stuff that you do outside of music?
Not really, man. I mean, I'm full time. I'm like, I'm doing a lot of songwriting stuff with some other artists. So I've started branching out into like production stuff, and I do a lot of live shows, like a lot of writing and recording projects, and I'm starting to like think about like developing artists, like getting into like writing and recording and creating a sound for artists and giving them songs and collaborating. So that's like my next sort of step in how, like, as you evolve as a musician, you start to like separate your ego from it, and you actually just want great artists and great songs, and if you can be a part of that process, that's a wonderful experience. But I think it takes time to get your ego out of the way.
Yeah, it does, especially in this space.
Yeah.
Musical inspirations?
Oh man, I don't know. I listen, as I said, man, I listen to so many different artists. Like I'm just listening to so much like African electronic music right now. Like I think one of my favorite artists at the moment is Sunel Musician, and I just love how he's combined African music in such a spiritual way. Like there's something very spiritual about his music with totally modern, like contemporary electronic beats. It just feels like totally modern, but in a way that I haven't heard before. I mean, I grew up listening to a lot of African music, a lot of my dad's music. Obviously that was like part of my life in such a deep way. And then on the other side, I listen to rock music, Nirvana and, all those like rock bands from the 90s. And now I'm just totally eclectic, man. I listen to hip hop, I listen to electronic, I listen to rock, I just love a great song. If there's a great song, I'm there.
Yeah. And then any international shows?
Yeah, man, we're looking at doing some shows in London potentially in the next few months, and I'm going back over to LA towards the end of the year to finish my album. Basically, I've just been like, the last 3 years I've been spending, 3 to 4 months in LA just writing and recording and working on new music, and it's been such a wonderful experience to, it's like when you're in your home country, you have. Everyone knows you, and they know your sound, and they know what you do. But when you step out and you go to LA or you go to a bigger industry like that, no one knows you, and you just judged based on your skills and your ability as a songwriter, your ability as a musician. And I think that for me, going to LA and experiencing, all these different songwriting sessions, working with different producers. I actually worked with Black Coffee the last time I was in LA, and it was just so like. It's so nice to be back in that situation where it's like, okay, I have to bring my A game, and I'm intimidated. These are people that like I want to work with, and like these guys are like, these are big deals. Like I have to bring my A game, as opposed to like being in South Africa where you can kind of be like, I've got a profile and I can just kind of coast through this, Whereas there it's like you have to bring your A game, and I think it's good to be out of your comfort zone. It pushes you, it motivates you.
Technology is evolving the music. I asked about the technology question a little bit earlier, but we are moving into the blockchain technology now. So I've just incorporated my past 2 singles with my audiovisual artistic work, created an NFT, minted about 10 pieces.
Wow.
That was my first, beginning of this year. Tried it out.
And
sold out in just 3 days.
Wow.
That was crazy. So did another one about 2 months ago, did very well as well. And I'm like, okay, cool. So the music is now shifting into this blockchain space. There's NFTs. Are you educating yourself around that space?
I don't know, man. I would be curious to know what you did. So did you sell artwork with the music? What was the NFT?
Basically, the NFT was artwork.
Okay.
Yeah, but because I'm a musician as well, snippet of my music into the actual artwork. So, but it's not a JPEG or it's not a still.
Yeah.
So my NFTs are moving.
Okay, beautiful.
With the music in the background.
Yeah.
So I'll take like a 10 or 15 second snippet of my music, incorporate it to the actual NFT.
Okay.
There is no blueprint for now.
Yeah.
So we're trying out different ways on what works, what doesn't.
Yeah.
But that's working for me because I'm selling all of my NFTs and people are enjoying the work.
Yeah.
I have not moved into actually selling my entire music, like as in the whole song, as an NFT.
Yeah.
But for now, I'm just working with other talented, let me say, when I say artists, you probably think I'm talking musicians, not musician. There's a guy called
like designers.
King Debs, exactly.
Yeah.
Digital designers, right? To put together this amazing piece of work, but obviously complemented with my music since I'm a musician.
Right.
But then again, maybe my next NFT won't be sold the same. I don't know. I'm still figuring this thing out, but I'm loving the fact that there is a market out there and the game is evolving. And maybe if you are not interested in it, this interview will probably start encouraging you to go on to do research,
Yeah, I mean, I know about it. I'm very aware of the space. And we've been approached to do stuff like this. But as you said, man, I think South Africans we don't have the same online culture, but I think it's improving, and it's exciting to hear that it's that you're doing it and it's successful and that it's something that people are interested in. I definitely want to look at it. I think, there's also there's so many stories of artists selling NFTs for millions of dollars. There's crazy stories out there. There's also stories of people, buying NFTs and then they can't resell them. It's such a crazy space. I guess I want to see where it's all going to go first before I dive in.
Okay, no, I get you. That makes sense.
Yeah, but I love the idea, man, and I'm gonna check what you did out for sure.
Yeah, and I love the fact that the music keeps on evolving.
Yeah.
And it's good that you're continuously honing your stuff, going overseas, collaborating with artists there,
Yeah.
here at home, changing sounds. That's exactly what I do.
Yeah.
The other minute I'm podcasting, the other day I'm on radio, the other minute I'm making music, the other minute you know what I mean? Like I'm not I'm consistently evolving with
Yeah.
my art. Because ultimately we are creatives.
Yeah.
You can express yourself as a creative and create a product, can create a book out of it. You can be on
Yeah.
stage, that on its own is an art form, and you're expressing yourself to the audience, or music videos, or directing, whatever it might be. As you're saying, now you want to move into helping other younger musicians, focusing more on production. I think it's a beautiful thing. We shouldn't just, just tell ourselves, I am this, and this is all I do.
Yeah.
I kind of feel
I think that's one of the biggest differences between now and like before the internet. Like artists back in the day, you were the songwriter. There was your publicist. There was your record label. There was all these people had different roles, and the artist was just the artist. You just wrote music, and you were isolated from everything else. Now artists are entrepreneurs.
Yes.
We are businessmen. We have to market ourselves. We brand ourselves. We create product. We find a way to inspire our audience in so many different platforms and so many different mediums, and that's exciting, man. I think that's like if you can keep up to date with all the crazy technology that's coming out now, like it's a very exciting space, man. And I think like if there's one thing that I could say to young artists is like, again, like focus on your craft, get your songwriting stuff down, but just you have to be aware of that other stuff, because it's just the world has changed so quickly, especially after COVID. As you said, man, like the internet has suddenly become so important because we were all stuck at home, so suddenly there was a new way to engage with artists. So it's an exciting time.
We make a lot of money. Sometimes we lose it. Sometimes we mess it up. The one time such and such was a rugby superstar or a soccer superstar or a superstar musician, and then a couple of years later they've got nothing.
Yeah.
Do you have your money right? Do you have the right people that sort of advise you as far as your finances are concerned?
I think so.
As a business,
That's a good
because
question.
you're a businessman. You know?
Yeah. Look, I started a company, and I've learned that over the years. I think that when you start out, you have to learn how to prioritize financially, and like where to put your money, what's a good investment and what's not, and like how to spend your money wisely in this business, because you can just throw money away in this business, man. Like, I mean, it's crazy, and there's lots of like hustlers and sharks out here that are like, they'll just take you for a ride, and like I think as you learn, as you grow and experience things, you learn who to work with, how to work with them, how to prioritize your budgeting and your spending. And I think that one of the most important things for me was like going independent, man, like not going with a label.
Oh,
like,
you're indie.
I'm indie now.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
My first 2 albums I was with a label, and I went independent, and it was like the financial freedom you get from not being tied to this other entity that is like, you're not being paid by someone, or you're paying people, you're employing, as opposed to being an employee of this label, and they're telling you how much money you have and everything. To actually be in control of your finances and be like, I'm spending this money, I know where it's going, and I know what I want to do with it. I think that independence is like, I found I was earning more money. I knew exactly where my money was going. I knew exactly how to invest that money, and like I knew who to work with. Like, you build relationships with people that you trust, and I think young artists want to get signed. Like, that's just the natural instinct. Like, you have to get a record label to like sign you.
Yeah, because you're still young. You don't have the resources.
You don't have the resources, and you don't have the knowledge. But I think that a lot of young artists end up signing these deals that gets them stuck in the label system, and you actually can't get out. You owe them 5 albums or 10 albums, and that's like half your life as an artist, So I was fortunate. Like I got out of my deal, and like at that point where I had a fan base and I was established, then I could just make my own way. And I really think that's, for me personally, that was a really big like step in the right direction, like just to have that independence.
You seem like a very humble brother. Has fame gotten into your head in any way over the past couple of years? Or when you were younger?
Listen, man, like my dad was like a really good role model for that. You know, he was world famous. You know, I mean, he'd done everything. There was nothing that he hadn't done, and he was so real and humble and true to himself. And you know, he really gave me a really good sense of, like, you know, you take everyone for who they are, treat everyone the same. You know, don't think that just because you've, you know, sold this many albums or you've done this that you suddenly special or that you deserve special treatment. No one owes you anything, and just be real. You know, that's my motto, for real.
That is so incredible, man. I appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to also getting into studio with you.
Yeah, man, please. That would be amazing. I'd love that. Yes.
I would definitely love that.
I'll send you some songs.
That would be so dope, man. Guys, I'm looking forward to learning from Jesse.
And likewise, bro.
Yeah, thank you, brother. I appreciate your time and just coming to sit with us. And once again, this weekend, are you ready for it? Are you excited?
I'm ready. I can't wait, man. It's gonna be really emotional, and I think it's gonna be joy and tears, and we're gonna be laughing and crying. I think it's just gonna be intense.
Have a lot of fun, my brother.
Thank you, brother.
And then lastly, before I let you go, speak to my young musicians out there, man. Just your last words, encouragement, you know, words of advice to the young guys.
Yeah.
I know it sounds cliche, but we always have to keep drumming in these positive messages to our youth, you know?
I think, you know, for me, in my experience, like the thing that's been my saving grace is just that I wrote songs and I try to connect with people, and I tapped into a part of myself that was true and real and honest. And you know, I think that's what the power of music is. A great song will find its audience. You just have to write that song.
Nice one. Thank you so much, my brother. Before I let you go, lastly, once again, every guest that we bring onto the show, we ask them to recommend 3 books that have either changed their lives or 3 books that they would recommend to our young audiences out there.
3 books. Okay. I don't really read a lot of, like, I mean, I read like a lot of fiction.
Okay.
Like I can recommend just like cool books that I've read.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Well, I guess like a classic one would just be like 1984, which is just this amazing science fiction book, and it's about, you know, it's about authoritarianism and about how, like, how the government can control people, and it's just this very powerful book about how to, you know, how important freedom is. So I think it's really it's a classic text.
Sapiens,
1984, yeah.
Okay.
Sapiens is a great book, and it's the history of humankind, told in a very, like, it's like 3,000 years of human history, but told in a very short time space. So you get like this very broad sense of human beings and where we come from and how we evolved. It's like fascinating. And
that is Sapiens, no?
Sapiens, yeah.
Okay. And
what's another one? I'm going totally blank here.
No, not a problem. It's okay. 2 is still fine. That's good
The
enough.
irony is that, like, I was a literature major. my lecturer is going to be like, I can't believe it. All the books we read were like Shakespeare and stuff, man. I don't want to recommend that. That's too old school.
It's so cool, man, to sit with another Joe Burger.
Thank you, brother.
Sending you love, blessings, appreciating you for your
Thank you,
time,
man.
my brother. May your star keep rising.
Thank you, man.
And,
likewise. Let's make some music together.
Yeah, let's make some music.
Yes.
All the best for the weekend.
Thank you, bro.
It's all love, my brother. Thank you. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
We get a pick.
I was about to ask.
Okay, let's do it.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you on the next video.
This is the Hustler's Corner.